What's up YouTube? This is Dr. Ali Haider, interventional cardiologist. Thank you for checking back to the channel. And on today's video about COVID, I want to talk about the reopening of our country, the economy, and sort of the ending of the quarantine that we've had for so many months. Now, as we slowly come out of this quarantine in most areas, we are trying to get back to a semblance of normalcy. Now, certainly, even though the peak coronavirus cases in most areas are downtrending and we have a pretty reasonable control and sense that we're past that initial peak, there are still some states that the cases are rising. There's also a real potential risk of a second surge. A lot of the stuff we don't already know, but we do know that the coronavirus is not going away, even if the worst of it may be over. So as we sort of get back to a semblance of normal life, we want to meet people, go out to the beach, go out to restaurants, get our hair cut, travel, all the normal things that we're used to that we weren't able to do in this quarantine. We still have to take precautions and be careful. Remember, we were social distancing this entire time and quarantining ourselves, so the cases certainly went downwards. So it's hard to know how much rebound, if any, that will occur in various areas. So the best thing to do is be cautious and try to follow some safety measures. Now, the CDC has released a document dictating some guidelines and some measures that everyone can take to stay safe. And I'm going to go over some of those recommendations that the CDC made. We always talk about the new normal we may be facing, and I think the new normal is a moving target. Right now, we're going to be a little bit more cautious than we may eventually be, but again, until we really have a vaccine and until we're sure that throughout the country and really the world, we're seeing a consistent downward trend of cases and deaths, we should still take precautions. Now remember, as safe as we are, we can never get the risk of contracting the virus to 0%. So we have to keep that in mind and factor in things such as your medical history, who you live with, and other things that could dissuade you away from engaging in certain activities if your risk is a little bit higher. Now, a couple of general themes. One of the most important things is to know what the status of your locality is in terms of cases. Now, you definitely want to see a downtrending of cases and hospitalizations and deaths if we're confident that the spreading of the virus in your area has come down and it's very low. It gives us a little bit of ease. However, if we're seeing an uptick of cases and an increase in hospitalizations and deaths, that's a situation where you want to be cautious and may not want to venture out. So definitely go online and figure out what's going on in your area. So let's go over a couple of common scenarios that you'll engage in when you're venturing out during the summer. Parties and get-togethers, whether someone's having a group of people over at the house, a cookout, something that's going to have a bunch of friends and family together in one place. What are the precautions that we should take? Now, one thing we know is that the virus is more readily transmitted in enclosed spaces with poor aeration and close quarters. So try to do something outdoors, in the backyard, on the deck, where there'll be a much less chance of viral transmission. Make sure you screen all your guests and ask them about any symptoms, any sick contacts, and any recent COVID testing that they may have had. Instruct all your guests to wash their hands on arrival and try to keep hand sanitizer readily available around so people can use it consistently and frequently. Definitely encourage face coverings, even if you're outside, just to be on the safe side, especially if you're gonna have a lot of people around together. If there's not a lot of people and there's a lot of outdoor space and you're maintaining some degree of social distancing, then face coverings may not be as important, especially if you're going to be somewhere where you're going to be eating and drinking. If you're going to be indoors, however, definitely try to maintain some social distancing. Encourage mask wearing at all times when you're indoors. When you're serving food, try to have a single person serve the food rather than do like a buffet style when there are a lot of different people touching different utensils. And try to use disposable items such as plates, trays, cups, utensils, etc. Finally, take extra caution in the bathroom because we know areas like the bathroom is where the risk of transmission goes up. So encourage everyone to sanitize the bathroom after use. Try to clean it consistently through the day. Use disposable towels rather than reused towels. And of course, hand washing aggressively when someone is going in and then leaving the bathroom. Now, what about going to the beach? Definitely a popular summer destination, and I'm sure a lot of people really want to get out there, but they're asking themselves, is it safe? Now, one good thing about the beach is it's outdoors, well aerated, and usually has a breeze, and you can do a pretty good job of distancing yourself from others, assuming the beach is not so crowded. So I would definitely recommend choosing a day and a location that is not going to be overly crowded. Then you can do a better job of distancing yourself from other groups of people. Masks are probably not necessary on the beach itself if you can maintain a good 6-foot barrier from others. However, definitely bring a mask with you, because if you're going to have to go indoors, use the bathroom, get some food from stalls or restaurants, you're going to want to use a face covering. Definitely try to bring your own food if possible to limit such interactions. If, however, the beach is super crowded and you're not able to maintain that 6-foot social distancing from other groups, you might want to pick another beach or another day. How about restaurants? Definitely one of my favorite things to do that I miss a ton. So restaurants are starting to reopen as well. A couple of things you want to keep in mind. First of all, I would definitely call ahead and find out, is there outdoor seating or deck seating available at the restaurant, which is going to be more favorable. You definitely want to ask the restaurants what measures are they taking to keep people safe, such as, are they keeping the tables 6 feet apart, and are they reducing the capacity of the restaurant? How are their sanitary measures in terms of plates and cups and silverware? Are they using disposable items? Especially want to find out about the restrooms, how frequently they're cleaning them, and if at all possible, avoid the restroom in restaurants. When you walk into the restaurant, you definitely want to wash your hands, bring hand sanitizer with you, use it liberally. Try to avoid touching your face at all times, because especially you're not going to be wearing a mask in the restaurants while you're eating. Also, try to avoid shared dishes and go with the individual items per person. Again, that's going to avoid potential transmission. Now, places like bars, clubs, and casinos, I still have reservations about. These are generally indoor places with a lot of people packed together, a lot of touching and sharing of surfaces. So I would be cautious if it's any scenario such as that. You know, I think it's those crowded areas indoors, even if people are wearing masks, that can get a little risky. How about gyms and fitness centers? Again, something that a lot of people are missing. Well, you definitely want to call ahead and find out, what are their safety measures? Are they limiting the number of people at any given time? Are they providing reservations for times that you can work out? How often are they cleaning the equipment? You know, you definitely want to try to wear a mask when you go to the gym and clean surfaces before and after using any sort of equipment. Certain pieces of equipment you may want to avoid, the ones that are hard to clean in between, like weight belts, jump ropes, and bands and things like that. Try to avoid greeting people with fist bumps, high fives, and things like that at the gym, and try to keep things as individual as you can. I still think it's a little bit early to get into the gym game, and I would try to stick with home workouts and exercising outside if at all possible. And finally, what about travel? Can we go stay in a hotel somewhere? You definitely want to call ahead to the hotels and ask them what safety measures are they using to keep people safe. Remember, there are a lot of common surfaces like the checkout window and the check-in window, concierge desk. Are they installing plexiglass and using a no contact, hands-free situation? You can try to get mobile key card entries for your rooms and use hands-free payment options. Now, as we learn more about the viruses, we think that common surfaces transmissions, such as counters and doorknobs, may not be as much of a transmission risk as we once thought, but if they're being used very frequently, such as in a hotel, you want to really be careful, because it can still happen. And you certainly want to inquire about sanitations of items such as the remote controls in the rooms, the doorknobs, the pens, the telephones, things that you may not always think that are at risk. You also want to ask about common areas such as the spa and fitness centers. Are they wearing face masks at all times? And what kind of sanitation measures are they doing differently? Because those are the places that also could be potentials for transmission. So again, a lot of this stuff is sort of what we've already been doing, but we got to think twice about it and still be vigilant as the country opens. What we don't want is people to get a little too lackadaisical as we go out about and do our things and enjoy our summers, because really even a little bit of a spark can go a long way, and we really don't want to risk a second surge. And the last thing we want is another lockdown and quarantine that could be really detrimental. Finally, take extra precaution if you're in the high-risk group. If you're elderly individuals over the age of 65 especially, and if you have underlying heart or lung disorders, if you have immunocompromised states, you're on medications that do that, all these kinds of situations that would put you at a little bit higher risk, and people that you live with, potentially risky people that you could bring the virus back to. Keep all these things in mind, and again, try to enjoy your summer, but do it safely.